Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Belisle, and you are listening to or watching Radio Maine. Today I have with me in the studio Danielle Devine, who is the editor of Maine Home+Design magazine. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
This is just such a special pleasure because I think you and I have not seen each other for 4.5 years, perhaps?
Probably. Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like the pandemic was longer than we thought it would be. But we tried to get together numerous times. But
that's right. It's not that we weren't in contact.
Yeah, we were in contact. But yeah, so it's really nice to see you in person.
Yeah. Well, and I think what some people may not know is that for a brief period of time, you and I worked together when I was working with the magazines, and I really enjoyed our working relationship.
Me too.
It was really fun to be able to spend time getting to know you and also getting to know the design world, which you have a lot of background in, not just in this current role, but you've been working in the design world for many years now.
I have, yeah. I went to undergrad I was an English major and then an art history minor, so I've always really loved art. So after graduation, I went into finance, actually, because I was in Boston and I wanted to make a lot of money, to be honest. And I left that world. I knew I wanted to do something with art. And design really piqued my interest because it was functional. But I think without my history in fine art and my love of fine art, I wouldn't have been drawn to design and really appreciated it. So I guess fine art led me to design and architecture. And I've been working in that field for almost 18 years. So a long time.
I mean, we were pretty lucky to have you start working with us at the magazine when you came to Maine, because originally you and your husband, you're not necessarily Mainers per se.
No. So when we moved, we were in New York City, and we really started having a family, and my in-laws live here, and I really wanted to live here. So my husband is an architect in New York. He opened up an office here. And when I first came here, I connected with the magazines. I was at an national magazine, but I wanted to, know about the design world in Maine, and Maine Home+Design really just encompassed everything that I wanted to learn about. So I was fortunate enough to be able to work for the magazine and freelance, and then eventually I was hired after a few years, and I haven't really looked back, and I feel really fortunate to be able to live in Maine and to write about design and architecture. So it's kind of a dream.
It's interesting when you use the word functional, because I think that you're absolutely right. A lot of people think of art as this is something on a wall. It's something in a museum. It's something that we have to go somewhere to admire from afar. But what you're describing is really living within a beautiful space and the impact that potentially can have in creating a better life.
Yeah, I love the fact that design really is for everyone, right? So everything in this room has been designed and has a function. Most of it, I think you have beautiful art, but I like the fact that it can appeal to someone very little, like with Legos or Tinker Toys, and then it can appeal to people that are looking for a new home and sustainable architecture. So it's really it's for the masses, and I think also fine art can be for the masses, and I love the combination of the two, which I really like the Portland Art Gallery. So when homes have art from the gallery in it, that really makes nice. And people combine great art and design and architecture. It's just like great furniture, great architecture. So that's really what's nice about the magazine is I get to do all of that and kind of put that all together and make an issue every month. So.
Well, I have to say I consider myself being from the masses because I did not have a fine art background. I did not have any real formal education in art, but I always had a sense of what I liked and what appealed to me and what I felt was beautiful or touching. And so for me, it was trying to find a way to whatever stage I was at, when my kids were little, maybe we didn't have as much art on the walls because, obviously you don't have as much money. And also, obviously have competing priorities. But, as time has gone along, the fact that you live with art and it can kind of evolve with you. And similarly, even the way that we design our homes and how those can also evolve with us over the course of our lives. Have you worked with, well, I know that you have. You've probably worked with people.
My world.
Yes, exactly. I'm guessing that you've worked with people in all along kind of the lifespan and with very different ideas of how they want to incorporate art and architecture and design into their lives. What are some of the lessons that you've learned?
The lessons I've learned, I guess, invest in good pieces if you can. There's definitely a lot of homes that have a combination of low and high, but knowing which low to go with. Like I always think invest in a really nice rug, invest in art you really love, right? Lighting is something that I think is really important. I think sometimes when I was younger, I would just buy to fill space. And that I kind of learned I'd rather wait for something really nice and just have a couple of items. And it really is, as an editor, it's all about editing, right? Like editing what's in your life, what's in the home, and really having thoughtful decisions. So I guess, I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Yeah, well, you brought up there's two things that I take out of what you're saying. One is the editing, which is sort of the taking away of things that don't need to exist or the accentuating things that you need more of. But one is the curation and the idea that you're actually making an effort to very mindfully choose things to be part of a space as opposed to... Well, I don't want to name any names of furniture stores that are kind of mass,
like box,
box stores. But you're absolutely right. When I think about, particularly when I was say in college or a young parent, I'd be like, I need a little bureau.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just needs to have little children's clothing in it.
Exactly.
And you're right. I think that there are times when waiting for the right piece makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. It's also, I don't know if people would find this interesting or not, but with the pandemic, there's obviously, everyone knows a lot of supply shortages. So when I go into a home, there's a lot of stuff missing initially. So we scout the homes and then we kind of get to see what they fill it with. And if they don't want to wait for, the gorgeous Mosier dining table, they'll go for something that's easy, right? And so they'll fill it with like box store things, which is really unfortunate, right? And then they usually regret the decision and then they want to replace it. So it's a lot of, if you think you don't need a fillet, it's better to have like a fold-out table maybe for a little bit till you get that table that you really love and that you appreciate, and not just fill it with things because that just ends up in the landfill eventually, right? So, I think thinking about what you're going to put into your home is really important, and you don't need that much stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. So you're describing if you make a choice that's a temporary choice, then what happens to the item that you've chosen that's very temporary? I mean, it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's sometime, hopefully it'll go to a new home that somebody will need it and want it. But if it doesn't, then it just becomes kind of part of the waste stream. So there's actually there's another reason to be more aware of kind of a sustainable approach and maybe just allowing the space to exist for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the more you live in a space, the more you know, like, what is going to fit in and kind of where the sun hits and, the certain pieces that will really make the room and make you happy. I think it's also what makes the person living in the space happy. Yeah,
and the idea of form following function. So the light comes in, and you realize, I'm going to spend more time in this room in the mornings. And if I'm going to spend more time in this room in the mornings, do I want to put a little chair here, and do I want to enjoy the sunrise? So that is something that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you've actually spent time in the space.
Yeah, and I really love that too. It's interesting when someone works with an architect. They're thinking about that, right? How the sun moves throughout the day and the windows and how many to put in. But also, if you're moving into an existing space, right, just kind of like living in there, like you said, and seeing which areas are the most important, where you're spending your time. And maybe it is worth, getting that Eames lounger for that spot, right, that you're in a lot and really love. Making that splurge with good design, and that's a great example of form follows function. Like, that chair is one of the most comfortable chairs I've ever been in, but it's also so iconic and maybe overused in a lot of things. But there's a reason why some of these objects are famous, right? So they're usually very comfortable and very nice and thought out and great materials. And I think materials are extremely important too, the materials we're using in the house and everywhere.
That's something that we've seen a lot more awareness of over time, is what things are made of, whether it's the type of wood, whether it's sustainably forested, whether we're talking about spaces that are taking into consideration things like LED lighting. And I think this has become more and more important over the last, I would say 10 years, but maybe even longer than that. What are you seeing for trends in the work that you're doing?
I think there's definitely a lot of analyzing everything that's going into the house, all the materials. We're lucky here in Maine, and with the design community, they're really focusing on things that are going to last and wear well with the weather. And just going into different homes, you can really tell the home that is really thought out in like a tight envelope. So having those really good windows, the insulation, you're saving money, obviously, on your like electric bill and, overheating. But just like the importance of starting, if you're going to start a new structure, what you're using to make it like a tight envelope and really sustainable. I think people are thinking more about what they're using. And maybe that sometimes might mean a initial bigger investment, but you're saving money in the long run.
And we're also thinking about our own health and the health of the house's occupants, our children, our pets. So when you talk about buying a new carpet, is it doused in...
That's a really good point.
Things that are going to off-gas that are going to make us ultimately feel sick. So I think that as somebody in the medical field, I'm really glad that is happening, because there are a lot of things that we spend a lot of time with over the course of our lives. Bedding, for example, and making sure the bedding that we have isn't laden with fire retardant preservative type items. Not that we want to all catch fire, but just, an awareness that we live around these things that then can have an impact on us.
Yeah, I think I could do like a whole podcast with you about bedding. And I think when I was younger and when you were younger, maybe too, like my mom got like my comforter from like a Macy's or whatever. And there was a reason why it was scratchy. There's a reason why it smelled a little funny. And it really is important to have that nice material because of your wellness. You sleep better. It's better for everything. It's better for an editor that comes in too. I don't have to bring in a stylist and change out the bed sheets, right? So I think, yes, thinking about the materials you're buying is important. And I think it's interesting what you're saying about like some of the things in the like 80s and 90s were not healthy for us at all. But I think we're a little bit more thoughtful now.
And I understand that some of the things that are mass produced, it's really done from a cost standpoint because honestly, if you can get something that looks really nice and it's pretty cheap, then don't we all want to have things that look really nice and make our spaces feel nice? But it's always got to be a balance because I think it's kind of like clothing. You buy clothing and if it costs $7.99 and it still has the formaldehyde and came over on a boat from China, what does that actually do to your body as you're wearing it? Yeah, so it's, but it is always a balance. We don't all have endless amounts of money, or most of us don't have that amount, so that we could
and that's really important too. And I think if anyone's curious, there are a lot of brands that are affordable and use nice materials. So I don't want to like promote anyone right now, but definitely in that lower price range. And even like bigger stores like Target or something like that, they have like a more natural line. So I think like if you look, and even like the dollar store now, like in general, like there's definitely, if you look or you thrift, you can find things at a lower price point. So as long as like and I feel like I used to hate when my mom would be like, read the ingredients, like kind of like read what's in there and think about what you're putting in yourself and your home and what you're gonna live with.
So there's two trends that I want to talk with you about. Mm-hmm. I'll start with the first, what seems to be a trend, and that is more of a focus on design regionally and more people who are spending time putting out media, magazines specifically, related to art and design in Maine, which is obviously wonderful to have that focus, but it creates a different landscape for you as as the editor of what once was the only magazine and now has some competition. But I think it's kind of intertwined with another theme, and that is that we have had more people, particularly as a result of the pandemic, who have come into Maine to work remotely for a time, but now have second homes, or more people who already had a second home. And I'm wondering if that has changed the way that you work and the job that you have.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a lot of people have moved to Maine since the pandemic. A lot of people have gotten second homes and are spending a lot more time in those second homes, especially with being able to have more of a flexible work schedule and work remotely. So I find that some people that live in Boston or New York are living here, half the year because they can. So there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff being built, a lot of really good stuff being built. And from the editorial standpoint, I'm working at national magazines before coming here. I think people are realizing that regional magazines definitely are probably something that's, more relatable, and also those national, international magazines that I used to work with and my friends used to work at are folding because people want to just know about homes in Maine, really. And those some of the international and national magazines, which I really love as well, are looking for the projects in Maine now, which is interesting. So Maine Home+Design, when I moved here, as I said before, was, such a great thing for me because it was like architecture, design, and it's all in Maine. And after I joined the magazine, a couple other regional design magazines popped up, which is great. But I think Maine Home+Design, their perspective's a little different than ours. I think what I always want design to be accessible, right? But we really don't do a lot of DIY. And I think some of the other magazines do that. So they're kind of filling that void, I guess, that Maine Home+Design didn't really fill, because we really do like to work with the design community. We, of course, like to give, hints of what you can do in the home and do it in like a affordable way. But we do really rely on our design community. Like when I am looking for a home, I usually get it from an architect or a builder or interior designer that I'm going to put in the magazine. And, out of 10 homes I see, 4 will be published, right? So, or not even. There definitely is a lot of looking and seeing what's going to fit in Maine Home+Design to stay on brand, and what I think our audience will appreciate. So I think, yes, there's other regional magazines. I have to say that I don't think they're really competition with us, because their outlook's a little different than ours.
So that's interesting to me, because I think we're in this interesting time where we want to be kind of everything to everybody, and we want to be equitable and inclusive, and also not everybody's going to read everything. So for you to be able to understand what your demographic is and who you're trying to reach and what is appealing to them, and really continuing to focus on that, has been, I believe, important, and also a way to remain successful.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing because that's, it kind of is counter to the culture right now.
Yeah. I think what makes Maine Home+Design kind of interesting is that we have all these departments, right? Which are quick reads and also give you tips and tell you about trends. But then we have these 3 home features that we always include. And there's a reason why the magazine since the beginning has always had these 3 home features, because you get to, enter these people's homes. They're all really well done. A lot of thought, and really like form follows function. Like those are the things like we usually try to, and we don't discriminate either. Like we love the cozy traditional home, and we love the sustainable modern home, and we love the super grand home. And we really love the small, smartly designed home. But you get those homes, but we also have these departments where we have a color theory department that kind of, we just all found out what the new Pantone color was. We all have opinions on it. And there's certain colors that are trending, and then there's certain colors that have staying power. And we kind of try to give tips to our readers, the colors that, are worth investing in. I don't think the white kitchen is gone, right? I think the white kitchen definitely has a lot of value. So those departments are really there to give you something extra besides the home features. And in every issue, a lot of editors don't write. I do I do our design theory column, and I also do a design lesson, which as a design person, I love taking an object that we all know and kind of discussing the history of it. So I think there's certain things in Maine Home+Design that you won't find in other publications either. I don't know if I'm going too beyond. I'm just trying to explain like what our brand is really about. So I think there's something for even a little kid that picks it up, because I want my daughter to like pick it up and be able to relate to it. So no matter what, she looks at it, she'll look at the floor plans, and she'll look at like, the history of Lincoln Logs and the fact that Frank Lloyd Wright's son designed them, and the history behind that she found was really interesting, and how it related to a project that he was designing in Japan, and like why the interlocking blocks work the way they do, and that represents how like the hotel stayed together in Japan. So I mean, there's definitely it's not just for like the elite, which maybe I came off as like kind of saying that, like the people with more money. I think it's for everyone, but the homes we do profile are those really great examples.
I think it's also important, you know your demographic, your readers, you do have a broader appeal. And also it is an aspirational magazine. I mean, when I pick up Maine Home+Design, there's something about it that kind of makes me happy. And I think, I could do this here, and I could see the way that they've done this countertop. And so I think not losing sight of that, this maybe not everything is always available to everybody, but maybe some things are available to the person that's looking to do something different.
Yeah.
So I just want to end by finding out, how are your kids doing?
Oh, they're doing well. I feel like when we first met, they were babies. My youngest is 6, and then my oldest is 11. And yeah, they love living in Maine. They love design. They love sports, and we're living that sport life right now with soccer. Even the winter, we're doing indoor soccer and ballet and all of that fun stuff. So I'm really lucky to, thank you for asking, be able to have a great job and a great personal life with my husband and daughters. And yeah, they're thriving. Thank you.
Well, I know that I was always very impressed with your ability to really fully be available at work, and also really do a great job balancing that with everything that you had going on. Because you're right. When I first met you, they were much younger. Yeah. But it never seemed, I think it's hard for all of us, and having also raised my own kids. I have, yes. But I think the ability to kind of live fully in all worlds is hard, and you cultivate it. But it can be so rewarding to be happy in your job, to be happy, doing what you love doing. And I think you bring that back to being a parent. Oh, thanks. So
you do a great job of that too.
Well, thank you. We are
It's a hard balance, right?
It is. And I think for me, that's why I always so appreciated seeing what you were doing with your family and with your husband, and how mindful you were in the choices that you made, because I know that's always been really important to me. And now that my kids are older, I've seen the great relationship that I have with them, and that the fact that it's an investment of energy. So it's an investment. Yeah. It's a very conscious way to live. So I'm going to give you lots of credit for that.
Thank you.
Yes. And I do hope that you will continue to follow the same path. And I'm really thrilled that you've been able to come in and check in with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, we won't make it 4.5 years next time.
Yes, definitely not.
A little shorter than that, yes. I've been speaking with Danielle Devine. She is the editor of Maine Home+Design magazine. I encourage you to spend some time looking through the pages, whether virtually or paper version, old school, of Maine Home+Design magazine. And also take a look at all the art interspersed, because certainly there is a focus on art in Maine Home+Design and the work that she does. And our worlds are really not that far apart. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.